Imagine you have just arrived at a huge international airport. Your flight leaves in 2 hours. You have your passport and ticket in your hand, and your luggage is ready. Everything seems fine until you look around and realize that you have no idea where to check in. There are hundreds of people, several counters, large screens, and signs pointing in different directions. You need to ask someone for help. So what would you say?
Think about it for a moment. If you want to know the location of the check-in counter, the natural question is, where is the check-in counter for Flight 208? We use where because we're asking about a place. You could also make it shorter and say, where is the check-in counter? Both questions are natural, but the first one gives the person more information about the flight you're taking.
Now, notice something important. You did not need a complicated sentence to communicate clearly. You simply needed the right question word for the information you wanted. At an airport, you may need to ask where something is, what you need to do, when something will happen, which option you should choose, or who can help you. These questions allow you to move from one situation to the next without feeling lost or confused.
And that is what we're going to practice throughout this episode. Instead of memorizing a list of WH words, we're going to follow a realistic airport journey and see how these questions work in situations you could actually face. I will also point out common mistakes and give you moments to think of the question yourself before we reveal the natural version. So keep listening, because soon the airport journey is going to take an unexpected turn when the departure gate changes, and you'll need the right WH question to find out what happened and where to go next.
Now, imagine you have walked through the airport entrance, but you are still not sure where to go. You see signs for different terminals, check-in areas, and departure halls, but none of them tells you exactly where your flight is. The first question you might need is simple. Where is the check-in counter? If you have not checked in yet, you could also ask, where can I check in? Both questions are useful because you are looking for a place where you can complete the next step of your journey.
You might also need to find someone who can give you more information. In that situation, you can ask, where is the information desk? Notice how often we use where when we are trying to find a particular location. Now let's make things a little more challenging. You see two signs in front of you, Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. You know your flight is leaving soon, but you don't know which terminal you need. What would you ask?
The natural question is, which terminal do I need? Here, which is different from where. We use where when we want to know the location of something, while we use which when we are choosing between specific options. Since you have Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 in front of you, which is the better choice?
Let's see if you can choose the right question. First, you can't find Gate 18 and need someone to give you directions. Would you ask, where is Gate 18? Or which way is Gate 18? Both can work, but which way is Gate 18 focuses more directly on the direction you should take. Next, you're standing between two terminals and need to know the correct one. You would ask, which terminal do I need? Finally, you can see the departure area on a sign, but you don't know where it is inside the building. You could ask, what floor is the departure area on? Keep these differences in mind, because choosing the right WH word becomes much easier when you first decide what information you actually need.
You have found the right terminal, located the check-in area, and now you are standing at the counter. This is where you often need very specific information. Before handing over your passport, you may want to know what documents the airline needs. You can ask, what documents do I need? If the staff member asks you for something and you are not sure what they mean, you can ask, what do I need to show? And if you are holding your passport and wondering where to put it, you can simply ask, where should I put my passport? These questions are short, but they help you handle the situation clearly and confidently.
Then comes the part that causes many travelers to ask questions: baggage. You may want to know how many bags you can check in, so you can ask, how many bags can I check in? If you have extra luggage, you may need to ask, how much does the extra baggage cost? And after you arrive at your destination, you may wonder where to collect your suitcase, so you can ask, where should I collect my baggage? Notice that how many is used for things you can count, such as bags, while how much is used for amounts or things we normally treat as uncountable.
You can use the same idea in many other airport situations. How much does this cost asks about a price. How many bags can I take asks about a number. How long will the flight take asks about duration. And how can I change my seat asks about the way to do something. Now imagine you are checking your boarding pass and you can't find your seat number. You could ask, what is my seat number? If there are several seats available and you want to confirm the one assigned to you, you could ask, which seat is mine? And if you are unhappy with that seat, you might ask, can I change my seat?
Here's a common mistake challenge. Imagine you have several pieces of luggage and you want to know how much luggage you're allowed to take. You might hear someone say, how many luggage can I take? But that's not natural because luggage is an uncountable noun. The better question is, how much luggage can I take? If you're talking about individual bags, however, you can say, how many bags can I take? Remember the difference. How many goes with countable things, while how much goes with uncountable amounts. This small distinction can make your airport questions sound much more natural.
After checking in, you collect your boarding pass and head towards security. This part of the airport can feel a little stressful because you have to follow instructions, remove certain items, and move through the process quickly. You may look at the security area and wonder what you are supposed to do first. A useful question would be, what do I need to take out of my bag? If you have your laptop with you, you might also ask, where should I put my laptop? These questions are not only about getting information, they help you understand what action you need to take.
You may also need to ask about the rules. For example, if you're unsure whether something is allowed, you can ask, what can I take through security? If you have several electronic devices or other items in your bag, you could ask, which items need to be removed? And if the security area is crowded and you're told to wait, you could ask, where should I wait? Finally, if you want to know how much time the process may take, you can ask, how long will the security check take? So, WH questions are doing different jobs here. Some help you get information, some help you follow instructions, and others help you understand rules or procedures.
Now, let's try a quick mistake challenge. Imagine you have just reached the security area and you want to know where you should put your laptop. You might say, where I should put my laptop. Can you hear what is missing? The natural question is, where should I put my laptop? The word order changes because this is a question. We place the question word first, followed by the helping verb or modal verb, then the subject, and then the main verb.
You don't need to memorize a complicated grammar rule every time you speak. Instead, listen to how these questions sound and notice their structure. Where should I put my laptop? What can I take through security? How long will the security check take? When you become familiar with these patterns, you can use them naturally in real situations. And security is only the beginning, because once you get through, you still have to find your gate. That's where our airport journey is about to become more complicated.
You've made it through security, and for a moment, everything seems under control. You check the departure screen to find your gate, but suddenly you notice something unexpected. Your flight was supposed to leave from gate A12, but the screen now shows B17. The gate has changed, and you've never been to B17 before. You need information quickly. So what would you ask first? You could ask, what happened, if you simply want to understand the situation. If you specifically want to know the reason, you can ask, why did the gate change? These questions sound similar, but they have different purposes.
What happened asks for information about an event, while why did the gate change asks for the reason behind that event. Once you know there's been a change, your next question is probably about the new location. Where is the new gate? If the airport has several nearby gates and you need to confirm the one you should use, you can ask, which gate should I go to? Then you may need to know when you have to be there, so you can ask, when does boarding begin?
And if B17 is far away, another useful question is, how long will it take to get there? Notice how each question word helps you get a different kind of information. Now it is your turn. Imagine you are looking at the screen and it suddenly says that your gate is now B17. You have never been there and boarding starts soon. You need to ask someone 3 questions. Take a few seconds and create those questions in your mind. You need to find the new gate, understand what happened, and know when boarding begins. What would you say?
A natural set of questions would be, where is the new gate? Why did the gate change? And when does boarding begin? You could also ask, how long will it take to get there if you are worried about the distance? This is the real value of WH questions. You are not choosing words randomly. You are deciding what information you need and then choosing the question word that matches it. But now there's another problem. You finally reach the new gate only to discover that your flight has been delayed.
You finally reach gate B17, but before you can relax, you notice that the departure screen has changed again. Your flight is no longer showing its original departure time. Instead, it says delayed. Now you need a different kind of information. You might ask, why is the flight delayed, if you want to know the reason. If you are simply trying to understand what has happened, you can ask, what happened? And if your main concern is your schedule, you could ask, when will the flight depart? These questions may seem similar, but each one is asking for a different piece of information.
You can also ask, how long is the delay, when you want to know the length of the delay. If you want to know when passengers will be allowed to get on the plane, you can ask, when will boarding begin? And if the information on the screen is unclear, you might ask, who can give me more information? This is a useful pattern because sometimes you do not need another fact from a sign or announcement. You need to find the person who can give you the answer.
There's another small difference worth noticing. You can say, when is the flight leaving, or when will the flight leave? Both questions are natural, and both ask about the future departure time. The first uses the present continuous to talk about a scheduled or expected event, while the second uses will to ask about a future event. In everyday airport conversations, you may hear either one, so you should be comfortable with both rather than worrying about choosing only one.
Now let's see which question you would ask. Imagine the departure screen says your flight is delayed, but it does not tell you how long the delay will be. Which question is better? Why is the flight delayed, or how long is the delay? The better choice is how long is the delay, because you already know there's a delay. What you need is the length of that delay. If you wanted to know the reason, then why is the flight delayed would be the right question. That small decision is what makes your questions precise, and you'll need that precision again when you arrive at your destination and discover that your baggage has not arrived.
The flight has finally landed, and after all those questions, you're ready to leave the airport. You walk toward baggage claim, find the carousel for your flight, and wait for your suitcase to appear. One bag comes out, then another, and another, but yours is nowhere to be seen. The carousel stops, and suddenly you have a new problem. Before you panic, you need to know where to get help. You could ask, where is the baggage claim area? If you are already there, you might ask, "Who can help me?" or "Where can I report missing baggage?" These questions help you find the right person and the right place.
Once you report the problem, the staff member will probably need some information about your baggage and your flight. They might ask, "What does your bag look like?" You could describe its color by answering, "What color is it?" They may also need to know which flight you arrived on, so they could ask, "Which flight did you arrive on?" Then they may ask, "When did you last see it?" and "Where did you check it in?" Notice how the same WH words we practiced earlier are now being used for a completely different purpose. You are no longer finding a gate or checking in. You are describing a problem and giving someone the information they need to solve it.
Now you need to find out what happens next. You can ask, "What should I do now?" if you need instructions. If the airline has a tracking system, you might ask, "How can I track my bag?" And if the staff member tells you that they will contact you later, you can ask, "When will I hear from you?" You could also ask, "Who should I contact?" if you need to follow up with someone. Notice the progression. Where helps you find a place. Who helps you identify a person. What asks for information. Which helps you choose or identify something specific. When asks about time. And how asks about the way to do something.
You've just used different WH questions to solve one real-life problem. That's the goal, not simply knowing the words, but knowing which question will get you the information you need.
We've made it through the airport, from finding the check-in counter to dealing with security, a changed gate, a delayed flight, and missing baggage. Now let's see how well you can choose the right WH question without thinking about grammar rules first. Imagine you need to find your gate. Which WH word do you need? You need where because you're asking about a location. Now imagine your flight has been delayed and you want to know the reason. Which question word would you choose? You would use why. If you want to know the departure time, you would use when. If you need to identify the person who can help you, you would use who.
Let's keep going. Imagine the airport has two terminals, and you need to know which one you should use. You would use which because you're choosing between specific options. If you see a suitcase and need to ask about the person it belongs to, you can use whose. If you want information about your luggage, you can use what, as in, "What should I do about my missing bag?" And if you want to know the way to do something, you can use how, as in, "How can I track my baggage?" Each WH word has a purpose, and once you focus on the information you need, choosing the right question becomes much easier.
That's the main idea we want you to remember. WH questions are not just grammar patterns that you memorize for a test. They're practical tools that help you communicate when you need information, directions, explanations, instructions, or solutions. At an airport, they can help you find a counter, understand a delay, locate a gate, or solve a baggage problem. And the same questions can help you in countless situations outside the airport.
When you're traveling, working, shopping, meeting people, or dealing with an unexpected problem, you're constantly asking questions. So tell us in the comments, if you were at an airport and your flight suddenly disappeared from the departure screen, what would be the first question you would ask? We would love to see your answer, and you may even learn another natural question from someone else in the comments. Thank you for spending this time with us on Native English Podcast. Keep practicing, keep asking questions, and remember that confident English isn't about knowing every word. It's about knowing how to use the words you already have when a real situation demands them. We'll see you in the next episode.